Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Ephraim Sieber. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, so for my capstone, I decided to create from scratch. Oh, for the love of God. I decided to create from scratch a costume of this video game character from a video game that I play very often. The two major sort of road obstacles that I ran into or were prepared for when I began to create this costume were creating the coat and creating the arm. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong way. So for a bit of background, Identity 5 is what's called an asymmetrical horror game, which basically just means that it's there's two sides. One side has one person who's trying to kill four other people. The character in question is one of the sort of four people who's trying to escape the arena. It said Identity 5 itself is set apart from other games in the genre because its style is a lot more whimsical as opposed to gritty, realistic horror. This is a video of some gameplay of the character that I. You want to? No. Just let it run. It's like 20 seconds long. So the character in question, its sort of gimmick is that this little thing, a little watch that creates a delayed image, something, whatever. Yeah, so this is just sort of a demonstration of the character that I decided to become, I guess. So for a bit of background, the first officer is meant to be a British naval officer from around the late 19th, early 20th century, mid 19th century. Unfortunately, it's completely historically inaccurate and nothing makes sense because it's modeled for a video game. So seams don't make sense. There aren't seams in places. It's not easy to translate to actual clothing. So that was something that I was prepared for, but it's still sort of, it was difficult. And there was also no sort of historical reference that I could go from to make it any sort of accurate to something from that era. So my first step was that I bought pattern fabric, muslin. It's thin and it's cheap. So it's good for being able to just drape something and make a pattern out of it. I had no idea what I was doing at all at this point. I didn't have a mentor yet. I had a very little bit of experience, but I sort of pieced something together that looked a little bit like a coat. My cat shows up a few times because I couldn't get him to move out of the picture. After I was mostly done with the pattern, there were still a few things that I had to work out, but I was like, I need to get moving on this. So I went to Joann Fabrics and I bought some fabric. They didn't have any red. And in the original costume, you can obviously see that it's red. I couldn't find anything red. So I was like, all right, I need to just switch gears now. And so I switched to a different skin, a different color palette, and bought blue fabric. This actually ended up working out because the original arm and the original accents are all like gold and bronze. I like silver better. And I already had silver paint, so that it worked out in the end. So for the arm, I still didn't have a mentor. It took me a very long time to get a mentor. Because a lot of stuff just didn't work out. But so I got started on the arm. And what I did for the arm, I bought a very long glove, which I was surprised it fit because I don't fit in gloves most of the time. I put a thin foam on top of it and then painted it. And it looks better than I thought it would. I didn't expect much. Patterning. So I finally got a mentor, Kristen Jensen. She's on the call right now. Thank you so much. We put the jacket together. She helped me fix the pattern and make it not bad because it was very bad. And it became an actual jacket as the sort of days went on. I did have to break it and make it sort of, distressed. And I did that by stitching very wide. There's like thread in here, and I just sort of shoved stuffing in there and then put in more thread to hold it somewhat in place. Yeah, and then to finish the jacket, we put interfacing into the hem, which is something that I didn't know you would do, and sort of turn that up, sewed it, put the lapels on. There's also interfacing in here to keep it stiff. And I pinned the buttons in place and sewed them on. For the boots, I had old boots that I'd used for another costume, and I spray painted them, and I put foam on the top to sort of give it that like overhang. I bought stuff online because I didn't, I don't own fancy shirts like this. So I bought it online. It was like $10. I don't know. But yeah. So it wasn't all like handmade because I was not going to go and hand make every single thing. The makeup was, I had stuff already that was just sitting around. So I didn't have to buy anything for it. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah, so I had to actually scrap a bunch of stuff from the costume. There's a couple like there's another spot of stuffing on this arm that I didn't end up doing. I didn't want to break the pants because these are actual dress pants. Obviously I'm not going to dye my hair gray for one costume. And I didn't have the jewelry, which I feel like, sacrifices have to be made at some points, and it looks okay. So I didn't feel like it was necessary. And that's it.
So Ephraim, at this point, we have time for some questions. So questions from the audience. I'd like to just begin with a comment. I remember when you say you were switching from red to blue, I was like, wait a minute, to blue? And it only just occurred to me while I was watching the presentation that blue is more faithful to your original, to the actual naval uniform, which I think is worthy of adding, that you went towards realism, right? Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
Was this your first time like designing a character?
No, I've done a couple before, but not really on the same level of detail. I'm not good at finishing things, which is part of why I did this for my capstone, because I'd actually have an excuse. Like, I have to finish this. I have to make it good, and I can't like half-ass it. Thank you.
I have a question from the chat. Why did you choose that specific character? And the game looks really cool.
I picked this character because at the time that I started the costume, it was the one that I played the most. I've since completely changed that, and I don't play this guy at all. But I also somewhat look like him, and I didn't have to do a lot with like the hair or like change a lot about my appearance. So that was really a driving factor in me picking this one. My other alternative was a giant lizard man. I didn't. Yeah, my other option was a giant lizard man, and I don't know how to do prosthetics. Otherwise, you would be seeing something much different right now. Yeah.
That's a great answer. So I have one more question myself. Could you, now that we have you full screen instead of the slideshow, would you mind doing a nice slow turnaround and just show off all the elements that we can for the camera and the audience?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's
Cool.
sort of longer in the back than it is in the front.
And it's interesting that we can
it's
see
not,
a
like,
pattern on the
showing-
right arm and
Is
did
it
you
showing
already?
on the Zoom?
Yeah, that I can see a pattern on one side,
Yeah.
that layered pattern. Is there anything you would like to add about that? The choice of using the pattern more on one side and then the other?
It's actually lace over the base fabric.
Uh,
And I did that because there's like quilted details on the original. And I didn't want to do that. So and they had discounted blue lace when I went to get the fabric, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. I can just throw that on there and hope it works.
Yeah, I know. I really like that look. I like the lace. I also think it relates to the pattern on the the sash or the belt. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Very
actually an
cool.
accident. When I bought the sash, did I don't think I included that I bought the sash in the presentation. I
Oh.
bought the sash.
Yeah.
And so it was supposed to be like a duller purple.
Mhm.
But the only purple that they had was either bright purple or whatever this is. And it like sort of matches the belt.
Mhm.
So
Excellent.
also I liked it.
Yeah, it looks good. It relates. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Was this your first time like sewing a whole piece together?
No, I've actually, well, sewing clothing and sewing like completely an actual functional like jacket, yes. I've been sewing since I was little because my mom like runs a business where she sews things, not clothing, but um quilting, bags, stuff like that. You're welcome for the product placement. Um and yeah, so I know my way around a sewing machine. But in terms of like I've never sewn a jacket before, and I had no
Mhm.
idea what I was doing. There's a lot of stuff that goes into making a jacket that I 100% did not know and would not have known if I hadn't collaborated with my mentor.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Speaking of product placement, perhaps you could give a plug for your mentor.
Yeah, Kristen Jensen, she works at UMass in the costume department, and yeah, she was absolutely amazing. She came over and helped me like just reconstruct the whole thing and put it together, and just it was a wonderful experience.
Yes, and the NHS costume department is awesome. And we love the NHS costume department. And we've collaborated with them in the past, and we hope we get to do it again in the future. And we want to really, really thank Kristen Jensen. Thank you, Kristen.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Kristen says it was a pleasure.
arranging-
Yeah.
Yes, it was a pleasure, and well done, Ephraim. It's been really a joy working with you.
She's saying, well done, Ephraim.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right, folks. Any more questions before we wrap things up? I think we're in a very good finishing spot. So one more turnaround. And show off the arm. Just bring the arm over to the camera. Let the camera see the arm. Yeah. Really cool. Nicely done.
Yeah, funny thing about the arm, I didn't realize when I sort of wrote this on the slide, but my original plan was to just like put the glove on and then glue all the pieces on while it was on my arm.
Mhm.
Like 3 pieces into the fingers, I realized it was stuck to me.
Yeah.
With super glue. So that wasn't fun. So yeah, I what I would have done, I didn't have an arm form. If I had some sort of arm form, I would have just done it on that and then ripped it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
But that's actually why it worked out. But this is a separate piece with Velcro.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to glue it to my entire arm and then have to rip it off.
Which is great. That's a problem-solving issue. And one thing I'm hearing here is, of course, arm form. Right. If you're going to make a molded thing, it would have never occurred to me. Right. I would want to have a form so I don't super glue it to my
Yeah,
arm.
there was no way to get around the fingers though,
Yeah. No way. Anyway, looks great.
or the back of the hand.
Or the back of the hand. But I think the solution works. So there we go. Ephraim Sieber, thank you all very much. Thank you, Ephraim,
Thank
for your
you.
presentation.